This is Lexxicon, and you're watching Studio One.
So first, I want to say thank you for coming to Studio One. Thank you for coming to this space. It's an absolute pleasure. Mike films the show with me. He brought you up. To finally get the one-on-one space is amazing because I've been meaning to really connect with you. I've listened to your music, so yeah. So it's really good that we've finally got time to sit down. So can you just briefly introduce yourself?
Hi, thanks for having me at Studio One. This is Lexxicon, and we're gonna have some fun.
Yes, we are. So first thing I want to talk about is you were born in Jamaica, and then you subsequently moved to Birmingham, and then New York, and then eventually Toronto. Can you talk to me about what it's like being a person who's been around so many different places and how that kind of encompasses like who you are as a person, just kind of being around so many different areas?
I'd say it teaches you how to adapt to any environment and helps you figure out how to build relationships quickly. Because when you're moving around so much, you kind of have to rebuild each and every time. But it becomes second nature after you do it for a couple of times. You don't even realize you're doing it, but like you're better at being personable. You're better at like connecting with people because you kind of were forced to have to.
Yeah, exactly. And like, so during those times, like in the ages, so from the time you went to Jamaica, to the time you went to Birmingham, and then New York before we get to Toronto, how old were you during those like transitions?
So I left Jamaica around 2, 3, stayed in England until I was maybe like 5, 6, and stayed in New York until I was like 13.
And so have you gone back to Jamaica like over the course of your lifetime?
Yeah.
So when you go back and you're visiting family and stuff like that, what does it feel like going back to your home country? Because I feel like a lot of people don't even get that opportunity going back to where they're actually from. So tell me what that means and what it felt like.
It's hot. It's sweaty. The food's great. That's what I miss the most. Everything tastes good. Everything's delicious. Yeah, I mean, family's there, but I mean, like, it's the age of internet. Like, you don't have to be there to be there.
That's 100% true, yeah.
But, like, yeah, other than the food, that's, like, what I miss the most. And, like, that's, like, you just can't get anything like Jamaican food anywhere else. You just can't.
Right. And so, like, when you were, because I know you went to school in Birmingham, you went to school in England, do you have, like, really strong, fond memories? Or were you still kind of young at that time as well?
I was young, but all I really remember right now is like watching cartoons. I think it was like Sailor Moon was one of them.
Sailor Moon, like why for us, like YTV.
Yeah. And being like one of the few black people in my school, I think that's really all I remember.
Talk about that point, because I recently talked to an artist and we talked about like growing up and going to school. And for me, like, yeah, like when I was in like elementary school and like honestly throughout middle school and high school, I was like maybe like one of 4 black people, you know, and it's one of those like experiences that are like not a lot of people know and feel of being like one of the only black people. Mm-hmm. So talk about what that was like. Was it like something you immediately noticed, or?
I'd say at first I didn't notice, but then like you noticed that other people noticed,
right?
And then that's when you noticed, because I'm like to you like it's just another place, another day. But then you realize everyone sees you differently. They're like, oh right, oh yeah, I'm black,
right?
You're like, oh yeah, I thought it was just, but like, oh yeah, how could I forget? But like, yeah, they remind you.
And it's interesting too, because like it's one of those like when you're living in the moment, you don't even like realize that it's like given this new age of like Twitter and representation matters and seeing like people that like you can recognize yourself in. When I was like a young kid, like I didn't even recognize that I was like the only thing. You know what I mean? Like, do you see it that way as well?
I always said it depends on where. Sometimes it was like that. You didn't realize, but then depending on where you are, they make, like, if you didn't know you were black before, they make sure that you know.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, on that note, so when you went to New York, tell me about what that experience was like for you, because that was the place just before you would eventually come to Toronto.
So New York was, I was in Brooklyn. It was a little wild.
You're right? Yeah.
was a little wild, you know. It was, I would say, not the best area to raise a family, but also very interesting because of that. Yeah, lots of fights, lots of shootings, lots of things happened in there. I mean, I really liked that everything was so close by. You could like go to like all the food places, all like everything was like right there.
Yeah.
Like, but like also, it's just a lot of garbage. There's so much garbage.
So, like, given that sense, was it like an exciting feeling to then move to Toronto?
Oh
then?
my goodness, you have no idea. The first time I visited, I was like, the streets are clean. I was like, what's going on? I was like, where is everything? Is it actually in the garbage? Like, yeah, it was definitely.
How long did you live in New York then?
I stayed in New York for, let's see, for like 5 years.
So, given that encompassing time, so you moved to Toronto, like, so I guess was it an easy transition for you if you were so excited to leave from that space? Because 5 years seems like a really long time to be in a city and to get used to it. Because I feel like with Jamaica and Birmingham, I guess you didn't stay too long.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of friends there, like a lot of attachments, but like, I was ready to come to Toronto, and I was ready to leave it all behind to come to Toronto. So nothing was really holding me back.
And okay, so now we're in Toronto. So talk to me about at what point does music become a faction in your life in terms of
Second year university?
Second year university, and that would be Ryerson. Mm-hmm. So something that I found out about you was that you went to songwriting. I guess.
How did you find this out?
we got to do our research. Like Nardwar, right? Yeah. So yeah, talk to me about the idea of like, as a musician, as an artist, I feel like you kind of know internally that's what you want to do, and then like when you get to school, I guess like it becomes hard to balance both of those things because school takes so much of you. And there's very few like artists that have really gone through to school and balanced it out as well. So can you talk to me about the importance of what school is to you and yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of like the opposite for me. I didn't really know I wanted to do music until I went to school. I just know I wanted to be in entertainment, but like I was more leaning towards acting and like doing some short films and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I didn't even think anything about music other than listening to it and like being the first to know when anything dropped and like when things used to leak. I was on the leak, so like the day it came out, I heard it.
That amazing
day.
era.
Yeah, that's the kind of like music listener I was. Other than that, like I didn't think anything about creating music until I got to that workshop in second year for songwriting, and that's when I kind of like changed my perspective on everything and decided I wanted to like actually make music. And balancing school, I mean, I've always just been good at managing time, so like that was never. If anything, it was more motivating because like. As much as I liked school, I didn't like school.
Yeah.
So, like, it's like, oh, now I actually have time to write. So, like, it was more like, I'll hurry up and do what I need to do so that I would have time to write. Because that's what was bringing me, like, the most, like, helping me, like, cope with school. Music was what helping me cope with school. That's really what was going on.
And before we kind of get into that whole, like, songwriting process and making songs and things, who were artists around that time that you were, like, interested in listening to? Like, even, I guess, early on in your life, like, what type of music have you yourself, like, gone into and listened to? Like, artists that have, like, kind of shaped you, I guess, in terms of that?
Let's see. Pretty much Sean Paul and Rihanna. Yeah, like, since Pon de Replay, I've been a fan. And the whole Get Busy 2000 Sean Paul Blow Up era, loved it. Yeah, I'd say those are the two most defining people that kind of defined where I was in music.
Yeah, and on that note too, when it comes to like reggae and dancehall and like these genres, and see yourself when you see like it becoming like a blossoming like genre, and I guess it becoming global in a sense, because I don't know, I don't know too much of it, so it's amazing to get someone like you to like really represent and like tell me more about it. So like on that note, like when you see like I guess the genre building itself up and like with Sean Paul and things like that, like what does it mean for you when you're like making music and seeing it and seeing the sound so global in a sense?
For me, it just gives me more hope that, oh, great, the labels will see this as profitable, which will increase the chances of them signing more artists in the sound, which increases sound traveling further, which increases more of us from those backgrounds getting more access to things that we never had before. So that's really how I see it.
Yeah, and yeah, because I feel like it. Going back to like the representation part, right? Seeing like seeing yourself in like others and seeing the genre and things like that. I feel like even when it comes to like me, for example, like I've interviewed like a Somali artist, and like it's cool to like connect and see things out, right? And for you, it must be really amazing to see like your like musical background like getting a shine and things like that. So going back when it comes to that songwriting, I guess just the workshop and stuff like that. Talk to me about like your early songs then, and what you learned in that process. Because the early songs are always a funny little story.
The early songs. So yeah, after that workshop, I pretty much didn't write anything for a while. I just went to read. I just found like this online PDF of like songwriting of like what that means, and it broke down everything into song structure, into melody, into like the chorus, the verse, like themes, how you evoke emotion with words. Like there was like a whole breakdown of everything, and I literally just spent like a couple months just reading that, just trying to learn anything before I did anything. And then after that, I just started practicing off YouTube type beats and just like come up with some stuff. I mean, they're not what I make now, but like I still think they were pretty catchy. So yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of artists that I've talked to, they always like some like look back on their old music and they're like cringe or like, oh.
I mean, I do cringe a little bit,
but it's like, about the growth about it, though.
Exactly. Like I do cringe a little bit, but like it's not terrible. Like it was never like this is absolute trash. It was more like, okay, I can see you're starting.
You're right.
Yeah.
And talk to me about like incubators in Toronto or like programs in Toronto that kind of helped you build yourself out as an artist. I know you're a really involved in the community, so talk about like things that you've been involved with in a sense.
So yeah, I mean, I first started with Rise in Scarborough. They have like weekly open mics on Mondays, and going there, I got to meet a lot of other artists, got to perform, got to work on my performance skills, got to grow basically as a community and like have people support you. And like the first time people are like, encouraging, be like, oh, they like your stuff. When you first start making stuff, you have no idea what people are gonna think.
Yeah.
And like they liked it, and just having that positive feedback just helps you gain the confidence to like keep making more stuff and getting better. So I'd say that was like the first like space that really like embraced me. And then I applied for like the Urban Arts BMM program in the West End, and I went through that. So that was also another great experience to get access to workshops, meet other artists that like are on my album today, and just connect and grow there as well. From those two spaces, I ended up just like volunteering after that. But those two artist-wise, like those kind of like helped develop my like artistry. And
as well, on that note, with can you talk about like Afrowave as well, and having like a festival and showcases and things like that, how important it is?
So I mean, it not only came about because I feel like there's not any of that, like you said, representation in Toronto. Like all the showcases in the urban side is all hip hop and R&B, and there's so many of them. So I just decided I was gonna start one for basically Afrobeats, dancehall, and reggaeton, soca too. Just so like, cause I've been meeting a lot of other artists in the city as well that are making similar stuff. So it would be great just to bring everyone together, create like a bigger platform, start creating that community so that we can hopefully all be like closer and collaborate later on. And
and what brought you to like being like, okay, like not only is this something that I'm thinking about doing, but like what brought you into being like, I'm going to do this? Because I feel like with a lot of people, you'll hear like, oh yeah, I want to do this, or this is an idea that I have. But for you, like, what makes you as a person like want to like execute what you're doing? Like, where does the like, drive come from, I guess?
I don't necessarily know where the drive comes from, but like I do everything that I plan to
do. Right.
And anyone you ask can tell you that. Like, anything I say I'm going to do, I'm saying it because I know I'm actually going to do it, and I wouldn't have said it if I wasn't actually going to go do it. Like, I just give myself some time frame to get it done, but like I'm going to get it done.
Yeah.
Like that book, it's going to get done.
Exactly.
Maybe not this year, but most likely next year it's going to get done.
Do you allow yourself to like, I guess, appreciate like moments like when you accomplish something?
No.
Because for me personally, like I'm the same way. I like to like have an idea and then like I'll like obsessively like make sure it gets executed and it happens, but then I like jump onto the next thing. and I try my hardest to like appreciate what's going on. So have you had moments over like the course of your like career where like you've allowed yourself to like be like, wow, I'm really doing this? Because like having your own festival is like an accomplishment itself. So
I say I can only do that like when it's maybe like 4 or 5 months after. Like even like my last album, I'm just like now being like, this was actually pretty dope. Because while I'm reading like the whole artistic thing you go through, you're like, I don't know, blah 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 blah, and but like now I'm like going back listen to it, and it came out last year. I'm just like, no, this is actually really good. I was like, oh wow, I actually did that. That was my first project, and actually was pretty solid. So ask me about 5 months from now about this one, and then I could maybe tell you, and we'll see. Maybe by summertime, I can tell you how I like actually appreciate like Afro even being able to do everything.
Okay. Now, you've released like an EP way back 2017. You've now released like a lot of music over the course of your career. In a sense, you recently released a new album. Talk to me about what the process is in terms of having bodies of work opposed to like releasing singles. Is the process different?
Yeah, the process is different. Only because when I'm creating bodies of work, I like actually think about it, and I'm like, what do I want the sound to be? What do I want the vibe to be? How do I keep it consistent but still different? How do I put it all together versus songs? It's just like whatever I want for that moment. I want all the songs to make sense together as part of a project. So I'd say that's like the biggest difference for me.
Okay. And you recently released a record. Can you talk to me about the process, what it was like for you, like making this record, and talk to me about what the title represents for you and everything. I know you tend to, like we just talked, like you don't like appreciate the moment, but talk to me about what this album means to you, at least at this moment in time.
Right. So I just released Bashment Trap House January 31st. So it's out everywhere. If you want to find it, Lexxicon, Lexxicon, that's my name. To right now in this moment, it feels like a good step forward. That's what it feels like. That process, I mean, it took, let's see, I started writing like for the first song last January, and it didn't come out till this January, but I basically finished writing it in November. So I don't know how many months that is, but
a couple of months, yeah.
But like that was just on and off, like because I wasn't like, it was more like I had a deadline set in my head, like so like I'm taking my time in between those times, but like making sure that I meet the deadline. So give myself, but like half of it kind of was done in 1 week, but the other half took like months.
And when it comes to like releasing records, do you feel away when you release records? Like, oh, I can't believe it's finally out. Like you're giving yourself away? Or when it comes to like releasing music, are you just like, okay, it's out now, let's on to the next? Like, how are you when it comes to releases?
I'm both like, okay, fine. Well, only because like once it was done in November, I was done. I was like, okay, I can start working on the next one.
Yeah.
And now that it's finally, I'm like, okay, whoa, it's finally out. Now everybody else can hear it. So like, I mostly want it out so I can hear people's feedback because I like hearing what people think. I like to know what their favorite tracks is. I like to know like how they connect to it. Like that's the most interesting part for me once it's out. But when I'm done, like I'm already starting the next one. Like the next one is coming this year as well. So I started that.
Yeah. And on that note too, just records and stuff like that. I know you touched upon it earlier about learning, like performing and going and doing shows. When you took that step from releasing songs and then performing them, how are you like on stage? Like, are you comfortable, or is it something you've been able to like grow with? Like,
oh, definitely I had to grow with it. Do Rise is where I was able to like grow the most. Because when I first started, I definitely was not comfortable. But over time, I love it. Like I love it. I mean, I've always loved it, but I wasn't comfortable. So I had to like grow into being comfortable and grow into like being free on stage. Like that's the only time I'll just do whatever I feel like doing because it's my song for the next 3 minutes and you have to listen to me. So yeah.
Yeah. And musically, I know, I guess there are moments where you kind of realize like, okay, this is what I'm doing. Like I am an artist. Like this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Do you feel like there is a moment in your life where you've come to that realization, or are you still kind of like, I guess there's always kind of like the surreality of it all, kind of like, oh, this is what I'm doing. Like how aware are you in terms of like, I'm an artist, I release music, this is what I want to do. And if you understand what I'm kind of trying to get a sense of that.
I mean, I'd say only for the longest time I didn't call myself an artist.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Even though I was like acting like an artist, I wasn't even calling myself an artist. I see myself first as a songwriter. because that's where I started first writing, and then it was more like, oh, how am I gonna get these songs to people? Oh, right, nobody knows who I am. None of these artists know who I am. Okay, I guess I'll just have to be an artist. And then I was like, oh, what kind of artist am I gonna be? Because I can write in like multiple genres. So I'm like, but like then I had to like go figure out who am I? Who am I as an artist? Blah 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 blah. And it took so long. And then I could release music as an artist. But even then, I was still like a songwriter pretending to be an artist. And then I'd only now kind of like say I feel like an actual artist. Where I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'm trying to release music. I have my plan, like this is the schedule, working to build a team. I'm adding this, I'm doing this is how we're gonna move forward. This is the plan for that. Like now I'd say I see myself as an artist.
Yeah, because like it's an interesting thing where it's like I know there's like a term that people like float around like imposter syndrome and not really feeling like you are what you are, and like I guess like back in the day I kind of felt like that a bit, but then when you kind of step into who you are as a person, you're like, no, this is who I am. So it's kind of interesting to hear your perspective on that. So when it comes to like, given the sense that you plan things so ahead, like given the fact that we're in like a new year, new decade, like how do you see the this year panning out for yourself as an artist? I know, yeah.
I mean, it's been already going better than I thought it would. I just know I want to release an album first quarter and then another one between the third and fourth quarter. So hopefully end of summer, early fall is when you'll get the second album because it's 2020. So I wanted 2 albums. Also, a couple of videos are coming out for this one as well. I plan to also like put more into the marketing, like more put it like I think this is like gonna be the biggest push yet for myself as an artist. And so far, it's been already going well, especially with Indoor Recess. It's been really helpful, like really, really helpful. So that was just like one of my strategies as well to add to my team. And now I'm trying to plan what else I need to add for 2020. So I feel like 2020 is going to be it already has been a big year, and it's really only February. So I think it's going to be an amazing, amazing year.
In a final sense, if you could like tell yourself what you know now as an artist from the time you started in Ryerson as a songwriter, what's something you've essentially like learned about yourself in this craft that when you came into it you had no clue how things kind of worked? In a final note, because it's kind of interesting. Because when this interview comes out and you can kind of look back on this, you'll kind of, in a sense, see yourself in that moment to this moment. So how would you see yourself in that way?
I'm not really sure. I don't know if there's anything I could tell myself specifically because a lot of it is like someone could tell you, but it won't matter until like
that's very true too.
Like experience it until you get it. So I feel like I could tell myself anything, but like it wouldn't be helpful. The only thing I could really tell myself is to like start earlier. Start earlier so that I could have hurry up and gone through all the different things I need to get through to get to where I am now. And maybe even further because I just started earlier. So like just start is what I would say. Like tell myself not to have the fear, like be more confident and just do it. That's the only, I think, helpful thing I could do for the earlier me.
Right, I feel the same way too. I mean, I started my blog and stuff when I was 19, and I still, when I look back, I'm like, oh, I wish I did it earlier because I know stuff. But yeah, you never really know until you really start. But on that note, it's been like an absolute pleasure to get you into this Studio One space. Absolute pleasure to have this conversation. I just want to again say this conversation has been really great and just learning about you yourself. And I wish you all the best of luck in the new year. Again, like you said, it's been a great year already. So just keep pushing forward and stuff like that.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Studio One. Shout out to Mike for the invite.
Shout out Mike. On that note, he said that you guys like did stuff together, like Stand Block Studios.
Yeah, we both interned there together. It was such an interesting summer. Like there was lots and lots of memories. We'll have a bond for life based on the memories of that summer. It was very unique, very special.
For sure, yeah. And so this was always in the stars. We just had to all come together. So again, thanks for stopping on by. Thank you.
Thank you.
Studio One.